Daddy issues, man. What's up with that? Daddy issues. Why my ass so fat, huh? Daddy issues. How I get my swag like that, huh? Pass the tissue, cause I just nut in my pants, huh? And I came fast, huh? Lightning McQueen up in that ass, huh? Then I blast, huh? Blast up like Team Rocket, I go fast, huh? In that race, cause I be zooming, doing the dash, huh? Today we're gonna be talking about daddy issues. Cause is it me or like does like most people nowadays have like daddy issues? Like some sort of, weird relationship with their dad or their father, same thing. Or, maybe they're either estranged, they don't talk to them anymore, or they just don't know them, like they just weren't in their lives at any point. This might be just based on my environment and where I am and who I know. But a lot of people I know seem to, have just a general dislike or just a general negative experience with their fathers. And it just had me thinking. Like I spoke about this before, like on other shit I've done before, but yeah. Basically, the thing I've been thinking is like, our dad's like, just generally speaking, our dad's just a bit shit. It's a good question. And it had me thinking, like, the role of a dad, like, is that, it's not done very well, is it? Like, is that, it had me thinking, like, is the shitness of dads today, is that based on the fact that, it's a hard role to play in today's society? Because that would make sense, just because if you think about it, being, what the traditional father is, the head of the house, the provider, the authority of the house, all that kind of shit, that's not really like a very, like, popular, or like, I wouldn't say popular, but it's not like a very celebrated role anymore, if you know what I mean. Yeah, because it seems like any kind of resemblance of someone that has like those kind of typical characteristics, very masculine, maybe even overly masculine, like very headstrong, opinionated, doesn't want to yield, that kind of stuff. That kind of person is kind of viewed negatively in society nowadays. And I guess that may be the reason why, a lot of fathers struggle to play that role. But also, I think that's kind of giving them an easy out. I think a lot of the time, dads just don't, from my experience anyway, and from the people that I know, I've said it already, but yeah, dads just don't know how to do anything other than, I feel like their role is very one-dimensional. And as soon as that dimension, which is providing, since that dimension, if that dimension either is like no longer viable for them, because let's say they lose their job, or they're just not working a very high paying job, or how it is nowadays where realistically you can't survive in most modern cities with one paycheck. So that means both, the husband and wife, or the man or woman, or whoever it is, has to work. Both people have to work. So I think as soon as that was introduced, I feel like the role of the man and the father I feel like they kind of felt unnecessary and like probably a bit emasculated too, now I think about it. Because I'm sure for them, like, their fathers were probably the ones that were super masculine, and they were probably in a situation where they were the main breadwinners and that was viable. But now, I think we're probably experiencing the second or third wave of generation of people that, can't live off just one paycheck. And I think that's literally caused so many men to kind of question what their point of, living is, which is quite crazy if you think about it. Because you would think that, being a father having kids would be like, you know, a strong enough reason to, you know, stay here. And I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think I'm trying to say, men generally speaking, they're quite one-dimensional, and I think that's only because society has only really asked men to be one-dimensional. And now that society is going into another direction where men are expected to basically just be, you know, a regular person. So you can't just be the provider. You have to also, you know, fucking be there emotionally. You have to like be able to support your family emotionally, not just with money. And I think as soon as that was in question, I feel like a lot of guys are checked out, like, oh, like no one ever told me how to do that. Like I can't do that. Like I'm out of here. I'm gonna go down to the shop, get some milk. See you guys later. I feel like the lack of fathers in society, just in general, I think that's really contributed to the amount of like, if I'm being honest, like weak and like just pussy guys. Like there's so many guys that you just look around the world that just aren't built to be here, sadly. They just don't have the mental toughness, the resilience, or just like basic life skills. And a lot of the time, like these men that grow up without a father or without a emotionally present father, they end up being pretty docile, kind of just go wherever the wind takes them. No real like backbone, and they're easily influenced by society and, you know, friends and random people. And I think it's just because like, even from my own experience, like I did have a father around, but he was like emotionally just checked out. Like he was kind of just there to be the, you know, enforcer. And I feel like, not having an example of how to be a strong man in the context of a family, I don't think people realize how big of an advantage that is for a young man to be able to have the experience of literally having an example of how to be in their house with them every day, teaching them what to do and what not to do. Because literally men and like boys and men that don't have this figure in their life, they're at a major disadvantage compared to people that do. And I know some people won't agree with that, but they're delusional in my opinion. Like, that's bullshit. It's clear that having two parents in your life, and especially for young men, having a father in the house is so important, especially if that father is one that's like a good example, that has actually like good character, good morals, etc. Because realistically, where else other than in the home are young men supposed to learn how to be men? Because you clearly can't rely on like, you know, media and movies and whatever the fuck else there is, because, you know, there's hardly any good examples of, you know, real men in like the family environment there. And when you don't have an example of like how you're supposed to be, well, not supposed to, but how to be, even an option of how to be that you can see every day, you end up just having to freestyle. And this is something I've literally had to do. Like I had to teach myself how to do most of the things that I can do today, and that's just because no one taught me. And I feel like a lot of guys don't have this drive to teach themselves how to do things. Literally, there'll be grown men. Like I know, like no shade on anyone that's watching this, because I probably know you, but yeah, I know people that are grown men in their mid to late 20s that don't know how to like do basic shit. We don't know how to turn the washing machine on. We don't know how to wash their clothes. We don't know how to fucking, you know, shave themselves. Like I don't know, like self-care, especially self-care. Like goodness gracious, I feel like guys in general, we're just fucking musty as fuck, aren't we? Like the average guy does not look after himself, and I feel a lot of that is because they were not taught how to do it. Like having a man in the house that, you know, looks after himself and passes that on to his son is something that should just be normal, isn't it? Like the whole point of being a father is to pass your wisdom and shit onto your kids and stuff. But I feel like a lot of men don't have this urge to really put a stamp on their offspring, which is pretty strange. And a lot of the men that, or young boys that grow up without a father figure and are raised by either single mothers or like family members, etc., they end up being like super successful. What's the word? Basically, they're more likely to be the men that are that grow up and are like addicted to drugs, addicted to video games, porn. Like I'm sure there's some study out there that like would explain this better than I'm explaining it right now. But basically, the idea is that like single parent homes, especially single mother homes, the boys that are raised in those environments are they almost always have a massive disadvantage to people raised in other situations, even single father situations, which I find quite interesting. Because if you think about it, like society doesn't really do anything for fatherless kids. If anything, they just create more and more of them with the way society is going, the the decline of marriages. Because I think I might be talking shit here, but I think there's a stat that said like was around 70% of kids born nowadays are born out of wedlock. So like 70% of kids are bastards. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? Back in the old days, like having a kid out of wedlock was like almost taboo, and now it's almost everyone. That is mad. And of course, that does have some correlation to the way kids are raised. A cool, refreshing drink. Yeah, so I feel like the government has taken over the role of the father. So, you know how the father was originally the provider, so monetarily. Now the government would just step in when there's no father and give the wife some handouts every now and again to help towards the kids and shit. But it takes way more than money to raise kids. A lot more than money. Of course, money is a big help, but it does not, replace the fact that you just need that figure. And I'm sure there's some sort of biological, mental, psychological reason why, you kind of need, as a man, you kind of need, or as a kid, as a young boy, you kind of need to see that example of like an older man that kind of just, I don't know, you kind of attach to them differently to how you attach to your mother. I feel like the love that you get from your mother is very different to the love you get from a father. Like the love of a mother is like very, almost like smothering sometimes. It's like very like protective. No, it's protective, but it's like almost to the point where they don't want you to make your own mistakes or fall off your bike, that kind of shit. They kind of want to protect you from any danger or shit. Well, the typical like fatherly version of this is basically like giving you advice of what to do, and then letting you go out there into the world and making your own mistakes, and then come back, and then yeah, it's like basically learning from your mistakes is the more like way that men usually learn, I guess. The rise of like the whole weak, blue-pilled, beta male kind of rhetoric, it's not it feels like it's not a coincidence at all. If you look around the world and see what else is kind of on the rise right now, the left is basically controlling most of the media now and spewing their nonsense. And it's because, and I feel like a lot of their ideals has become like the status quo now, the normal. So this whole like, women don't need a man. Yes, queen. I'm an independent woman. All that kind of shit. Of course, like I'm not trying to say like there's no such thing as an independent woman. I'm basically saying pushing this idea to like all women is making women honestly feel like they can raise a whole family by themselves, and then there'll be no repercussions for their kids. It'll be fine. Like they can do it. They can do everything right. They can do everything by themselves. They're just as strong, if not stronger, than men, right? So they can raise a whole family by themselves. But what's really happening here is that this propaganda that women are getting, that they can do everything by themselves, their children are the ones that are paying the price for this shit, man. For real, like, there's so many kids raised by single mothers that are just not on the path to success or on the path to anything really. Yeah, man, it's kind of fucked up, isn't it? Because I've got to be honest, like, also, I don't feel like anyone really holds men accountable. I don't think anyone holds anyone accountable anymore. Like, when it comes to the family environment. And I think that's because we're also like atomized and isolated. Like, communities aren't really a thing anymore. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I used to know all my neighbours. I used to know, oh yeah, number 11 is Miss whatever, number whatever is this. And now I'm back in my childhood home and it's just so different. Like, no one knows each other. No one communicates with each other. It's very much just like separate people just living in close proximity to each other that have like no stake in each other's lives and don't care about each other at all. And that leads to a lack of accountability. The fact that we don't know each other, it makes it easier for, you know, us to get away with doing fuck shit basically. Because there's no threat of, oh, you know, your neighbour down there will hear out and come knock on your door and chat with you. That's not happening no more. Everyone's just so focused on themselves. And I guess it's the individualistic nature of society these days. Like, no more communities. It's all about you. You know, chase the bag, all that kind of shit. Which of course I get. Like, everyone wants to, you know, get money and shit as well. But at what price though? Are we just gonna? I feel like we're kind of giving up on a lot of the core parts of like the human experience, like having a community, being able to rely on each other for things. Like, we've just kind of given that up. I think I'm going off track again. Let me go back to the topic at hand. So so my point is that boys and young men need father figures. They need fathers, and it's kind of fucked that there's not many about that are able to do that role. And it's clear that there's not many about, because what have young men that need guidance turned to? The internet. So they've either turned to addictions, so basically just kind of distracting themselves from the fact they're lost by, you know, playing video games, fucking watching hentai, jiggly titties in their face and shit, watching porn, touching their little worm. Or if they're on the other side, there's a new side now, which is the, you know, alpha sigma male, kind of Andrew Tate, Hamza, that kind of wave, where, like, I gotta be honest, it's pretty sad. Like, a lot of these young men literally see these social media guys as like their virtual daddies. Like, I've seen people write long comments in like like under their posts, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, you know, this person does not give a shit about you. I guess it just shows like how lost a lot of young men are, that we're literally so desperate for guidance and help that we're willing to just trust random people on the internet. Yeah, it's pretty fucked. And that is coming from a random person on the internet right here, so yeah. I think that's about it. I think that's quite a bit. So yeah, at the end of the day, it seems that dads are pretty shit, but it may not be 100% their fault, but also kind of is, and society's fucked. We're all gonna die, and let's go.